For that, I would like to introduce you all, once again, to our moderator of the day, Julia Reinhardt from the Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences. So big round of applause for Julia. And the room is all yours.
Great. So, good morning to everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you to today's multiplier event, which is titled Entrepreneurship and AI Redesigning the Future of Higher Education. And as Tandan kindly mentioned, my name is Julia Reinhardt, and I am the coordinator and project manager of the CURATE project on behalf of Haaga-Helia University Applied Sciences in Finland. So first, I'm going to introduce the project, a few of the key milestones so far so that we can set some context, and then we're going to talk to some of our experts. They're going to give 3 brief presentations about their areas of expertise, and then we'll open up the floor for a roundtable discussion. We'll have a discussion here, and then we'll have a Q&A with the audience as well. So at the end, you will have a chance to ask all of your burning questions about the topics that we'll cover today. Okay. Yes, so about CURATE. CURATE is short for the Co-Created Student-Centered Incubator Program, and it is an Erasmus Plus Cooperation Partnerships project that brings together 5 higher education institutions and 18 associated partners from the world of work. We have some of the logos of the companies right here. These are companies from 5 different countries, from all of the participating countries that we are working with. And we have companies as large as the largest utility provider in Slovakia, that's VSE here, to Dermatest, which is an international dermatological testing company, and then also some smaller startups which have joined us from all of the 5 partner companies in the project. Now, these different companies provide challenges to the students, and our international student teams are solving those challenges. And together with these companies, we're piloting a new kind of incubator program, one that puts students with diverse backgrounds at the center of their own entrepreneurial education and integrates artificial intelligence as a core driver of innovation. And this project is grounded in a few key beliefs. First of all, that real-world challenges can be powerful learning tools, that diversity and the diversity of the student teams enriches innovation, and that AI is not only reshaping business and industry, but it must also reshape how we teach entrepreneurship specifically in higher education. And here you can see just one of the workshops that we've had right here with our higher education partners. It's an online workshop, and we actually created some personas. So we're directing everything that we're designing towards these personas that we have created here. And you can see all of our experts there. We have also external experts in the fields of AI and entrepreneurship joining us to help co-design the incubator program. Here you can see what we ended up co-designing. So this is our incubator curriculum framework. So we have all of our entrepreneurial topics in the middle, and we have the 2 boot camps on the end there. These are physical boot camps where the students come together on location. We held the first boot camp in Košice in Slovakia in April. We had over 75 students joining us online and physically in the room. And I think we involved, I would say, over about 100 people in the execution of the boot camp. We have the second boot camp now coming up in September. That will be hosted in Münster, Germany by the Reach Entrepreneurship Center. We also have here coaching meetings, so we set up a whole coaching program for the students, and then we also created a toolkit. So this is a brand new toolkit that we've created, so how students and people that want to start their own business can actually incorporate the latest in AI tools in their entrepreneurship case. We've also created an online course, so this is hosted on Ulysses Moodle. It's a 5 ECTS online course, and we have all of the items mentioned in the curriculum there. We have, of course, some videos, and we will update this course now with a MOOC, a 3 ECTS MOOC that is going to be designed here by the learning designers at Université Côte. So we actually have Jibril with us. He's going to tell a little bit more about how you can use generative AI in entrepreneurship education. So looking forward also to hearing about that as well. Yes, and that's just the logo then of the AI Toolkit for Startups. And that's some photos and some videos from our first event in Košice in Slovakia. So we have kind of our welcome video there, and then the students and experts that were joining us from the 5 participating universities. So University of Košice is hosting, Haaga-Helia is coordinating, and then we also have Université Côte, MCI, and University of Münster participating as partners in the project and bringing their students on the mobilities as well. And just some more photos there from the first event that we had. So thank you very much. That's just a little bit about the project and some of the main things that we've achieved so far. If you'd like to find out more about the project, you can click the QR code and visit the website. And then also you can find my email there. You can email me anytime about this. But we would now like to turn to today's program. And you'll hear from 3 expert voices, and I'll introduce them one by one, and they'll give you a short presentation. And first, we're going to hear from Jibril Dieng. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, Jibril Dieng. Is that correct?
It's correct.
It's more correct-ish, okay. And he's going to tell us a little bit more about generative AI as a tool for entrepreneurial teaching strategies. So he is an instructional engineer at the Université Côte, and Jibril works closely with educators to design and support the use of advanced digital tools in teaching and learning. And today, he'll explore how generative AI can enhance entrepreneurial teaching strategies, from supporting ideation and content creation to improving student ideation. So Jibril, I don't know if you need a clicker.
No.
No? So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia, for a great introduction, and good morning again, everyone. So I would like to talk about how generative AI are a tool for entrepreneurial teaching strategies. But first, to make things clear, that I'm not an expert from a business school or a tech finance. But yesterday I had the chance to lead a workshop about AI tools for educators, and I talked about tools, practice, and ethical use. So I will just would like to extend this conversation on the word of entrepreneurial teaching strategies. But just to share, since I'm doing a lot of research about AI in teaching and learning, so I would share some promise of generating AI, but based only on research findings and concrete examples in classroom. So I will tackle 5 points. So the first one will be the promise of generative AI in entrepreneurial education. The second point will be I will do a pedagogical shift of generative AI, moving from automation of data to the agency of students. And the third point will be to use some concrete use cases in classrooms. The fourth point will be to see future direction of generative AI, mainly in the framework of CURATE project. And the last point, but not least, is to tackle some challenges of generative AI in entrepreneurial classroom. So let's start with the first point of generative AI in entrepreneurial education. I have done so many researches about this issue, the promise of generative AI in entrepreneurial education, and I find a very, very great paper I can share it with you after, that is published just 1 month ago. And it is a systematic review of generative artificial intelligence in entrepreneurship research, current issues, and future direction. And it is conducted by some Swedish experts. And in this research, we can find out that generative AI can first of all democratize entrepreneurship. And we all know that before generative AI, Usually when you have to found a company or just you want to found a startup, it needs a lot of time, a lot of cost, and usually it was only maybe reserved for inspirational people, people with a lot of ideas, etc. But right now with generative AI, the research find out that this process can be really democratized, and founding your startup, your company, can be a easy task. And they find out also that generative AI can as well remove the barriers of time and cost. So we all know that finding a company, setting up a startup is very complicated and very logistically demanding in time and cost. But with generative AI, these barriers can be smashed. Because I remember last year I did a workshop with Jonathan about a design thinking process, but it takes 2 days for us and for our participants to do the whole process. But right now with generative AI, instead of taking months or a lot of times, it can just take a few seconds or just a few minutes. And the experts find out also that generative AI can help their students to transform their ideas into reality just in hours instead of months, as I said a while ago. And the concrete example I will give is just for yesterday with the chatbot set up by Julie Lensley about the Bridget. So you can see that it's a GPT that was only trained for this workshop, and you will need just some hours to come up with your vision instead of taking a lot of time. So the list is not exhaustive, but these are some key promises of generative AI in entrepreneurial classroom. So let me go now to the pedagogical shift. That's for me very interesting, because in classroom usually we talked about generative AI as a automate tool, just to automate our task for generating quizzes, generating lesson plans. But for me, in the entrepreneurial domain, we have to go beyond this. Why? Because for me, students, they have not only to use AI in entrepreneurial classroom to automate tasks, but also they have to use it to develop what I call the entrepreneurial literacy. So that is to say that generative AI should enable the students to test, to iterate, and pitch their ideas. And in this pedagogical shift from automating data to create your agency, the role of the teacher will also shift, because for me, the teacher would be no longer to evaluate the student from the output, I mean the data generated by AI, but the teacher should base on how the students prompt AI in a strategic point of view, how the student assess the feedback critically to develop their critical thinking. That for me, it's very important whenever we want to found a company or something like that. And also the teacher have to focus on why the students accept or rejected the ideas generated by AI, and also how they revise them. So for me, that's the pedagogical focus for the teachers when conducting a classroom in entrepreneurship. Not only to focus on the output data generated by AI, but also pedagogically speaking, to focus on how the students develop their agency, and also how they prompt AI, how they assess the feedback AI give, why they accept this idea and reject this one, and so on and so on. And by doing so, I think that the students can develop what I call also agency. So I love really this term because it is part in the topic of my PhD. I am looking for agency, but not with generative AI, but with virtual reality in my PhD topic. So, but when we use generative AI in this critical view, the student can develop the agency, and by agency I mean they can like take their own initiative. Also, they can make very well informed decisions. They can use valuable data if the data that AI generated are outdated, are updated, etc. So they can evaluate this data, the feedback, and also the intuition before choosing the right direction. For me, that's the key whenever we wanted to find a company or something like that. Making the right direction at the right time, at the right context is the key. Otherwise, we can be lost in the process. And also, they can act with autonomy. So they can design the process, they can execute the process, and adjust them by their own. And also, of course, I said a while ago, they reflect also critically whenever we use AI in this pedagogical point of view. And as well, they can create an impact, that is, they aim to solve real problems, but also to bring added value to existing problems. So now let me talk about very concrete use cases of generative AI in classroom. I have done so many researches, but I will just provide 2 concrete examples because I think I have 10 minutes, that's it. So now I think I have 3 minutes or 4 minutes left. So I will bring then 2 concrete examples of AI use in classroom. The first example is used by ESCP Business School in Paris. That is one of the biggest business schools in France and in the world, of course. So in this business school, the students, they use a GPT to simulate this tech, like some kind of interviews, and I am thinking about the presentation that Manuela or Ludmila shared with us yesterday. And also they can generate early pitch for social projects, and as well they accelerate the creative process while teaching them how to filter AI and also how to challenge the generative AI. And I also extract one testimony from the associate professor, Louis David. So Louis David is responsible of conducting AI in the school. I can share also the link after. So Professor Louis David said, at ESCP Business School, we are pioneering the integration of artificial intelligence into both academic and business environment. And AI is embedded in all our programs with specialized courses focused on its application in business. And our faculty progressively leverage a course, and AI is also a key research focus with our scholars both studying AI and using it to enhance the research project. So this is a very concrete example of how these biggest business schools use AI in their daily classrooms. And I see also another concrete example from Harvard University. They use AI for market research and also for value propositions. And how they use it, so they use the generative AI tools, and they specify that they can use ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, etc. for market research and also for custom discovery, And also they can use AI to know how to understand the market dynamics quickly. And just a quick parenthesis, yesterday I met an old friend in the tramway on my way back. He is now an entrepreneur, and I asked him to prepare this presentation, how do you use AI? So he told me the same thing, that he used AI to try to be updated, to have the current data of the markets. So the same in Harvard University also, they use generative AI for that. And also they use it to learn how to build an MVP first, and also get to market before the competitions. That is very important, the MVP, that help the students not to go fast, just to prototype and to launch the first version of their product, so that it can like cost you a lot of budget, a lot of time, and then you can test if your product answers the needs of the local community. That is very, very important. And now I will go directly to the future of AI in the framework of the CURATE project. So what I suggest to develop in CURATE is to try to share an entrepreneurial GPT. That's my suggestion. So a GPT is a generative pre-trained transformer like ChatGPT, etc. So why we can do this? Because by creating a GPT that is common to each university partner in the CURATE project, we can train on the entrepreneurial framework of each partner university, so we can gather the knowledge in this domain from Kotazi, from UK, etc., and train them in a common GPT. And also we can identify the local needs in France, in MCI, etc., and train it with the GPT. And also, of course, we can train the GPT with the different languages. Like, usually we can see that AI output data mainly in English, but we can also pre-train our GPT with the different languages of the different partner universities. So I will go directly to the challenge because I'm running out of time. So the challenge is, of course, the first challenge is copyright issues. So we have to be very careful because right now, whatever generative AI suggests, sometimes there are some litigation in justice. And in my presentation on Wednesday, I give the litigation between Getty Images and Established AI. So Getty Images claim that all the image Established AI use are from them. So we have to avoid this and to always let our students to cite concretely what they use and how they use generative AI. We have also to prevent for hallucination, and that's why I propose this GPT. Because whenever we use a generative AI that is too general, it can hallucinate, like it can hallucinate and give you outdated references or fake references or like a lot of errors. And also we have to prevent them for the bias that is now very common in generative AI. You can have like linguistic bias, for example, if I prompt in French, I can have less result than Julia would prompt in English. That's why also it's very important to have a common GPT so that we can train with the different languages. And as well for to avoid what I call also the cultural bias. So all these are some strategies that we can gather in the framework of CURATE and to develop a common GPT. And to finish my points, I just say we have to always remember the ethics and transparency, always. We are in a European context and we all see that every day we have a lot of troubles with ethics and transparency in AI. And the EU AI Act also come up with a framework classifying AI in 4 categories of it. And we have really to choose the type of AI tool that is fully compliant with the GDPR. So, and it is our responsibility as educators to handle all the stuffs. And I just finished these points to say that AI can suggest, but you educators, you have to decide what matters for your learning, what matters for your goals, and what matters for your students also. AI also can retrieve, but you educators, you have to curate. And of course, we don't need to fear AI, but we need to lead AI. Thank you very much.
Jibril, it's really interesting to hear also about this common GPT that you're suggesting. When we were developing the curriculum originally, we were thinking about creating a GPT already for the course materials, but it sounds like what you're suggesting is taking even one step further, which I think is really interesting. So thanks for sharing that. I'm really looking forward to working with you and Université Côte on that. We will also touch a little bit on the ethical implications of AI a little bit later when we talk to Mr. Robin Couture-Matt But now we are going to go over to Osvaldo Succi Jr., and he's going to tell us a little bit about a COIL as a launch pad for entrepreneurial collaboration. And he is a virtual exchange specialist at Centro Paulo Sousa's technical colleges in Brazil. And he's been a long-time advocate for collaborative online international learning, or COIL as it is known, as a tool for inclusive cross-border education. So he's going to share with us how COIL can serve as a launch pad for entrepreneurial collaboration. Osvaldo, welcome. Let's have a big hand for Osvaldo.
Thank you, Julia. Good morning, everyone. I try to be as technological as possible. I had everything on my laptop, my phone, but paper is too easier to read. So, and I'm trying to keep track of all the things that I would like to share with you. So, as Julia pointed out, I dedicated the last 12 years working with COIL projects, collaborative online international learning, or some people call it virtual exchange. And in my personal opinion, COIL serves as a very powerful mechanism for developing the entrepreneurial spirit in this global and digital landscape. So this is, I think, the most important thing about COIL. And when we talk about digitalization, or when we talk about bringing AI to class, when we're talking about all the things that our students have to face, I think COIL is a very supportive tool to this. It's flexible enough to help us see our positions as professors, as students in a very different way. As I mentioned, I've been working with COIL for a long time, and we hear a lot of things. And one of the questions is, what is COIL? It's just a course online, or is it a pedagogy? Is it a methodology? And I would get in trouble if we had like a group of specialists in COIL here. Like my friend John Rubin insists that is pedagogy. Some other people talk about methodology. But I would try to say that COIL for me is a disturbing approach. It's disturbing because it doesn't fit our regular higher education models. It doesn't fit into one specific mobility. It doesn't fit in one specific area because it's all encompassed. And at the same time, COIL somehow piggybacks on disciplines. And professors have to decide, am I going to stick to the things that are in my program, or am I going to go beyond the classroom? Am I going to be trying to bring my students to the real world, and most especially in this case, help my students be better entrepreneurs? In doing this, COIL can be very challenging at first, but it feels like a bitter pill that it's very difficult to swallow in the very first moment. Sometimes we don't know exactly how it works, but in the very end, you come up with positive surprises. So I strongly recommend COIL as one of the tools that you use for your quest to help your students be better entrepreneurs. And COIL lines very well with the idea of entrepreneurship. because it demands critical thinking, problem-solving skills. Students have to be resilient. It's not easy to cross from one culture to the other. It's not easy to cross language barriers. It's not easy to sometimes working 11 hours difference, 5 hours difference, etc. So there's a lot of challenges, but these challenges are very real in our professional lives. And so as we work with our students, as we try to create this environment that they have to work in teams, that they have to be innovative, that they have to be resilient, that they have to adapt, and as Jabril was saying, they have to be digital fluent in this. So COIL allows you to immerse your students in these situations. And it also is interesting because it's a very flexible approach. And this flexibility allows you to create things that are very common in business. For example, you can easily set up an international lean startup challenge, or you can create a global social innovation, like you saw me present yesterday. You can create cross-border e-commerce simulations, and it's like a sandbox. You know, it's safe to fail. It's okay to fail. And even if you fail, sometimes you get it right. So it's a very interesting aspect for this. I'm gonna bring you an example that happened with us. We have 82 campuses in São Paulo State. We are small campuses, but very spread throughout São Paulo State. In one of our states, in one of our units, FATEC in Dayatuba, the local community was really interested in trying to export their products to the United States. So they went to the city hall, they talked to the people in the city hall. The people of the city hall came to the university and said, listen, we have this 16 people interested in exporting to the US. We teamed up with the Paul University in Chicago, and their graduate students helped our students. They worked as leaders in with our students, and they managed to map the market in the US and try to see the kind of things that these Brazilian companies had that would be acceptable and would put them in a position to compete in the United States. Out of these 16 companies, 8 were selected to be worked with. From these 8 companies, 2 started exporting 6 months after the project was ready. So it has a very clear connection with entrepreneurship, very clear connection with these different models that you use. And if you saw one of my presentations, it also fits really well with artificial intelligence, because sometimes as a COIL coordinator, I cannot see the details of a specific discipline, of a specific thing, while AI can help me generate new ideas and try to bring this students and these projects together. AI tools such as translation, project management, data analysis, even transcripts from conversations are fantastic for summarizing, for creating, for reviewing materials that you have created. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that COIL is, I'm biased here, but I would say that's indispensable strategy for future-ready higher education. It's an imperative to create a dynamic, experiential launchpad that equips students with critical, and this, I will emphasize this word, critical, in the sense that they have to really understand what's going on, critical cross-cultural competencies, collaborative abilities, and resilient entrepreneurial mindsets. And pretty much, as W mentioned, there are some serious ethical issues, not only with AI, but with COIL too, depending on the culture that you're working. But I will leave this to Robin, that is going to talk more about this. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Osvaldo, for sharing. It does sound like COIL is a really good tool also for entrepreneurial thinking, building entrepreneurial competences and mindsets. And I'm really interested actually to discuss that more with you a bit later on, so we'll have some time for questions also. But now I'd like to introduce Mr. Robin Couture-Matt, and he's going to tell us a bit more about ethical considerations when introducing AI-driven entrepreneurial projects. He is an assistant professor at Téléc University in Canada, and as we all know, AI is becoming more integrated every day into education. It will also become more integrated into entrepreneurship, as Jabril gave some cases also. And these ethical questions are becoming all more urgent when it comes to AI and entrepreneurship. So Robin, if you would please guide us through these ethical considerations, that would be great. Over to you. Thank you. Let's have a big round of applause for Robin.
Well, thank you, Julia and the team, for having me today. I'm sorry for my voice. The kind of AC and heat outside kind of had a toll on my voice this year. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. First, a little disclaimer, I'm not an ethics professor. I'm actually a language learning professor, but I've been on different boards for ethics and AI because I'm an expert in AI. Sorry. So, let's talk about ethics today a little more. I actually have 3 points I'd like to discuss. The first one is 2 key concepts, which are responsibility and innovation, and then entrepreneurial reflexivity, and finally 3 very common ethical considerations that I'm sure you've seen throughout the years. So I think when it comes to ethics and AI and entrepreneurship, there's kind of 2 main concepts, one of which we've discussed already, innovation. AI is exciting, it brings about new possibilities that we see all the time nowadays, and it's really tempting to just go out there and do everything with AI, okay? I can imagine a few years ago when cars came to the roads, okay, for the first time. People were excited about them, maybe they were afraid, but certainly it was something new. And I think when it comes to entrepreneurs building their skills, they want to see it as a competitive growth advantage. But at the same time, they need to balance it with responsibility. Because there's consequences to actions, and with AI, it's even more difficult to see. Because AI deals with data in ways that we don't necessarily comprehend very well. Even the people who built AI are not even certain now where it's going. Okay, so there's kind of this balancing act that's happening between innovation and responsibility, and I think that's the basic of ethics and AI, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. So that's why it's important for projects like CURATE, and you as educators, if you're dealing with young entrepreneurs who might want to build some businesses and so on, to develop what is called entrepreneurial reflexivity, which is really this idea of an ongoing critical self-awareness of your motivations, values, assumptions, and really the social and ethical impacts of your actions. In many ways, when we think about entrepreneurship, we think about products. I'm sure if I tell you, if you think of new technological products, many of us think of Silicon Valley, these big tech groups that develop these nice and amazing iPads and computers and so on. But right now, the what is not enough. We need to think about the why, the for whom, and with what consequences. And this becomes really hard to see with AI. And that's even more so because now entrepreneurship is global, decentralized, and interdisciplinary. What I mean by this is, when we didn't have the internet or communication technology like today, entrepreneurship was most likely local. But now, with communication, you can be like our friend Osvaldo said, anywhere in the world and have a business going, right? You can have different people from all around the world, and now you have a new player in that, which is Gen AI, who's kind of a partner, but does not really have a moral conscience. So that kind of makes it even more complicated. And now entrepreneurs, yes, they do have, the idea of maybe creating a social impact, maybe climate action, civic engagement, inclusivity, but it's not always the case. So you need to think about these things when teaching. And at the basis of AI is data. We're not going to lie, it's all about data and how to access it. And back in the day, we had, entrepreneurs trying to get data from the target sector, which could be, for example, going out there interviewing people, to get to know if they like their product, for example. Or entrepreneurs doing focus groups. But now with AI, it's a completely different access to data, which can seem so easy to do. Instead of having to go out there and collect all that data by yourself, I'm just going to ask ChatGPT. And I'm going to have the data I need. So it's a new player in this mechanism that we try to use. But for young entrepreneurs, maybe it's hard to see how this could have a moral impact on our world. And this is why there's kind of 3 ethical considerations, and I'm going to go over them very quickly because I'm sure you've heard a ton about them this week, but that need to be reinforced when we're teaching in projects like CURATE. The first one I would say is user privacy. Okay, and I know it's kind of hard to see, but data is probably the most valuable currency right now that entrepreneurs have. Okay, I'm sure you know, but Google is free because it sells their data, basically, and all these things. AI taps into that data. It's just giving you an easier access way into that data. So that currency, you're not even maybe aware that you're actually selling, is all your information. So for entrepreneurs, it becomes a very borderline ethical dilemma of using all that data, which has not necessarily been, consented, or maybe you don't really know, or you've accepted some cookies without really knowing what it is. So sometimes what I've seen done actually is there's, all sorts of disclaimers that entrepreneurs put on their websites, but that's more like a checkbox. And for many young entrepreneurs who just see it as a way, they're going to put that disclaimer there and say, oh, it's okay, we've done our job in terms of ethics. But that's not really what you want to build as an entrepreneur. What you want to build is a relationship with your customers. And just having a checkbox, that's not enough. Now, I don't have the ultimate solution here about that, but hopefully, user privacy should not be seen as a barrier to innovation, but as a foundation for innovation. What I mean by this is that we should teach our young entrepreneurs to really try to go reach out to their customers, not just through AI, but aided with AI, and really have this relationship. Now, the second consideration is fairness, especially during collaboration. So thank you again, Osvaldo, for talking about collaboration. And AI can become a great tool for collaboration. But sometimes it creates situations which are not fair in terms of workload or between team members. especially for migrants who have different levels of AI literacy and technological literacy. So it's very tempting sometimes to just replace some people or some of their colleagues with AI because they don't seem very performant or so on. But I think it's important to teach our young entrepreneurs to reflect on that impact. Otherwise, it's going to be easy to say, oh, we're just going to replace people with AI without really thinking of the impact on those people. The third one is, and I'm sure you've seen a lot about it too, is algorithmic bias. I had this great talk, I was part of this great talk, I think, on Tuesday, where a gentleman from Wales was showing us, all these AI-created pictures, and every time it was always a white male with a suit or something like that, every time. Now, when you have migrants coming into Europe and trying to figure out with AI, they're really underrepresented, okay, usually in those situations. And again, at the same time, who do they want to sell to, usually? So there's kind of this divide that's being created. So, of course, we need to acknowledge this responsibility, but also to teach them some inclusive practices, just how to prompt correctly, so that we kind of go around this algorithmic bias, so that morally we're more inclusive when it comes to entrepreneurship practices. So, in conclusion, there's 3 principles that I'd like to share in terms of how to use AI with entrepreneurship ethically. The first one is the precautionary principle, and it's really hard to apply. I'm sorry, okay, with AI, but the idea that if you're not certain it's going to do harm, maybe don't do it. If you're not certain, but how can you apply that with AI? Because it's doing harm, but you don't know, and who would like you to know? So that's really hard, but still, be careful with AI. I can teach you students that too. The second one, of course, is the fairness principle to make sure that historical inequalities are not being promoted. And the third one is transparency and accountability principle. You cannot necessarily decide for the AI, but you decide how you use the AI and how your students use the AI. So at least they can be accountable as to how AI is used as part of their engineering projects. So these are kind of the 3 principles. And I think that's it for my time. I was a little short, but it's good because my colleagues had a lot to say. So I'm going to hand it over to Julia.
Okay, thank you very much, Robin. Let's have a big hand for that. So being mindful of the time, we are going to now start our roundtable discussion. I think we've had a lot of interesting insights, so there's plenty of questions on my mind, and then we'll have some questions also from the audience. And I think one of the things that stood out to me, maybe not directly related to this, is Robin, you mentioned your voice. Osvaldo, you mentioned working in different cultures and climates and all of this. So I think maybe we all deserve a big round of applause. I think it's been a big week for everybody. I know it's quite warm in here, and maybe some of you are a bit tired. I know that I am as well. Maybe not getting great sleep in the hotel, but you showed up today, and I just want to give a big round of applause for all of our attendees. Okay, great. I think one of the things that stood out in Robin's talk that maybe also applies to what Osvaldo mentioned is around fairness, right, inclusion, and these type of topics. So I'd really like to move on and ask Osvaldo about, COIL, it connects people, and these people are probably invariably from different socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds, right? They come into an unfamiliar environment. Now, how do you intentionally design COILs so that all students, especially those students with fewer opportunities, can actually contribute to the COIL, feel welcome, and all of these things?
It's a great question. We try, I think one of the major pillars of COIL is we try to be as inclusive as possible. We try to bring people from all different walks of life. 92% of my students have a family income that would be similar to $1,000. And they have to deal with all these difficulties and all these things. And AI has helped students come to a different threshold, in the sense that they can translate the conversations, that they can, if they have any problems in terms of language, they can participate more actively in the conversations. But one thing that for me, has been crucial in terms of AI, and I see very few people discussing, especially when we're talking about COIL. COIL is, not COIL, but AI is a really interesting tool, because, for example, we have 2 native speakers of English here. It's much easier for them to present than to us. You know, things are going through my mind in Portuguese. Yesterday we were in Italy. I hear you speaking French. I talk to my mom in Portuguese. So it's, you know, a bilingual person. There's Greek. A bilingual brain is really complex. So one thing that AI has been very crucial for me is the fact that especially native speakers of English, they have to take a second look at the way that they do business, because there's no more excuse. I cannot read your paper because it's in Portuguese. So this changes the ball game a lot, in the sense that empowers those who are non-native speakers of a specific language, and at the same time shares the burden with people who are native speakers of a language. So if somebody comes to Brazil and this person is Finnish or is Spanish, I can read their papers. I can be informed about their culture, their things, because, you know, the tools are there. So it's just a question. So I think AI has helped COIL level the ground a lot in many senses. So I think I tried to. Okay.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, this just reminded me yesterday when we are conducting our workshop. Usually, one of our educators, he was very brilliant, but he would not like to present because of his accent. So I tried to explain him that, you know, as Osvaldo said, like it's always easier for the native speakers, but we have also to know that accent is nothing to do with performance. Like we have here a language speaker maybe, but usually when you acquire your second language lately, it's always very difficult. So you have always your vocal cords that are very adapted to your first language, and of course you will have a very strong accent. But again, so feel free to express yourself, because accent is nothing to do with performance. So that's just one point that I would like to add.
Am I allowed to? Yeah.
Oh, please, yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm a language teacher, like you said. What's the first thing, actually the most important part that people judge you on when you speak a language?
Yes.
It's your accent. I'm sorry to say it. There's no other ways, okay? You could have the most perfect grammar in the world. You could speak like a book. If you have an accent, you will be judged. And actually, there's a lot of great AI tools for translating, but it's a divide, okay? And it's really hard to put down, okay? To kind of stop establishing between people. And I think when you come from, you're a migrant, for example, in the CURATE president, with a lot of migrants coming in, it's even more difficult because people have to deal with the language and social inequalities. Okay, and AI is actually making it worse in many ways. So it's a big concern, actually. Thank you.
have to say that many of us here work in an international environment, and we go back to our home universities, and maybe it's more comfortable for us. Some of us can speak in our native language at our home university, some of us not, but I think we have to acknowledge the environment is becoming more international all the time, but it's still not fair. And that's one of the reasons that I wrote this project. I have an international home, I work with many international students, and I think that it's very important that these students and people, no matter where they come from, have a platform that can showcase their brilliance. So that's maybe one of the biggest reasons why this project was created. That platform did not exist in my home university for our international students from outside of the EU specifically. So I think that these challenges are definitely real. I think there's much good work in our universities being done to acknowledge and work on these challenges. So thank you for bringing that up as well. I maybe now would like to bring it back a bit to these ethical concerns. So Robin, you talked a lot about kind of this deployment of AI, things to watch out for. Can you think of one or two things that are either technical or policy-wise that can really help universities to deploy and utilize AI solutions ethically? Or something that you've seen, any cases, just one or two of those?
Yes. I mean, when I think about it, I think about Gen AI, mostly because AI is pretty big in many cases. The first one is prompt, like teaching students how to use prompt correctly. And I saw a lot of people this week giving us like different ways of writing prompts. But I don't remember many saying that there should be a last part about making it inclusive. Okay, so we always have these like, okay, who's your target audience? Who's that? But we could add a last part, and we could ask Gen AI to be inclusive and to watch out for certain things. So that would be maybe one technical thing, is to teach students how to prompt well. And I know it's adding on top of the rest. But okay, and then the second one, when it comes to policy, and I talked about this in one of my talks, but institutional cultures come from policy, but it takes a lot of time. So it's to reinforce whatever universities decide to do through targeted interventions throughout the year. For example, in my university, there's like every year there's this kind of AI reminder, but I don't think it's enough. We should have banners on our emails saying like, be wise with AI and things like that. That's how you change culture over time, not just by adding one rule to a policy, but by reinforcing it over the years. Same thing in your classes. Don't hesitate to remind your students of what your beliefs are in terms of AI and what you want them to do. So, but it takes time and money, so I understand why universities don't do it all the time, but that would be my advice in that case.
Thank you very much. I think it's really important too, you mentioned this sort of awareness building, that there are these policies in place. And I remember being at an event just like this one, and someone said, oh, we don't have any students like that. We don't have any students that need extra support. These are university students. And I think that unfortunately, maybe that is sometimes still the view that the support is not necessarily needed. But maybe now I have, yeah, please. Yeah, definitely.
I also think that we can look at, I think everyone here at one point or another was a professor or a teacher, and a lot of people who are afraid of AI is because we were looking at the final product at all times. And AI has taught me at least that we have to evaluate whatever we're reading through the process. So when I'm teaching, well, I'm in an administrative position right now, but if I were back to class today, I would ask my students, and I would say, I want to see what you're doing. Okay, was this Gemini? What did you change from this? How did you get from A to B? B is not important anymore because, most of what I said here, it was AI generated. Clearly, these are my ideas. But the kind of English that is here, it's not mine. It has been polished, it has been, revised, it has been could even be mechanical, but it fits more a English-speaking audience. So I think looking at the product is not enough anymore. So looking at the process is what's important for us.
Yeah, now maybe I have a question for Jibril, but I agree with you that when the AI is applied, it's very important. There was a new study that came out, I think, from MIT yesterday, which involved when students applied the AI, did they apply it in a certain part of the process, and the brain activity was actually increased if they did their own work first and then applied the AI after. So that was actually quite interesting to see, just popped up on my feed. But maybe now over to Jibril. So you've talked about how generative AI can help to enhance students' learning, but maybe if you could just share how maybe AI tools or techniques, some of the things that you're doing in preparing your courses, how could this specifically empower students, let's say with lower language proficiency or lower confidence, to take part in the learning activities more fully?
Yeah, thank you again, Julia. So, really, in my process of using AI, I know that I'm a bit complicated, but my mindset about AI is that AI is not a magic solution. For me, as I said at the end of my speech, we have to leave AI. And for me, like, you can hear about a lot of tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity AI, Claude AI, etc. And usually, you can find more relevant data in Claude AI in the free versions than in ChatGPT in the paid versions. So that is the reason why, for me, really I don't care about so much about AI tools, but how we have to use it. And usually, I try to promote the development of agency, like how the students, they are able, they feel like they are able to lead the AI to get what I need, not only like just prompting AI and just having a output. No, for me, really, how I show in my presentation, for me it's a cycle that we have to go through in order to develop our critical thinking. Me, for example, I started using AI like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but I feel that right now, the way I interact with AI tool, ChatGPT, etc., is not the same way that I interacted 2 years ago. I develop a lot of things, and also I reject a lot of things when AI generated. So I try to challenge the tools, but it's very difficult to say you have to use this tool, you have to avoid these tools. So what just I recommend is that we are in a European context, and we have to choose tools that are fully compliant with the GDPR. So I think that's it. And yeah, what we have to learn is just what benefits we have to extract from AI for our personal development. So that's my understanding about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I wish we had more time, but unfortunately we do not, and we would like to open the floor up to questions from everybody here. So we have about 15 minutes for questions, so the floor is yours. And thank you again to all of our experts who joined us. Maybe one more round of applause.
Okay, Carol, thank you. Thank you for the nice presentations and nice insights. And you really definitely addressed a lot of very, very important things. And one of the most important is addressed by Robin, it is awareness. Actually, it is in all the areas. It is in cybersecurity, it is in AI, it is everywhere. So we need to be aware about what we use. Very often we are aware about different kinds of cheating in the cybersecurity, in the AI, in the online payment, in everything. People use technology even they are not aware of. They don't know what they use actually. So this is very important thing that we need to work on awareness. We need to increase awareness in all these areas. It's not about technology. Technology is very advanced. In cybersecurity, technology is extremely advanced. You can solve technologically whatever you want. But by the statistic, 85 up to 95, all attacks are happening because of simple human mistake. The same is in the AI. The same is everywhere. So this is the main issue. We need to work a lot on awareness principles. About AI, about generative AI, actually, or GPT or similar tools that we use. They are, what is the problem with them? The problem is they are collecting everything, true or not true. They don't make any kind of difference. If we create tools for ourselves from a reliable data, they are perfect. It just depends what they rely on. If they use good databases, if we fulfill them with real data, with something checked, what is, for example, journal papers, some laws, whatever it is. But it is true, then it is perfect. It could analyze whatever we want. Now I was reading about one journal condition for submitting. They said if you use generative AI for research, for analyzing data, for extracting the knowledge, it is fine, you should not cite it. But if you use it for grammar check, improving a little bit English, you should not reference it. But if you use for writing, then you need to reference and then you need to provide the prompts. So it is fairness. If it is for some automated activities, then it's fine. Why you pay someone for lecturing with your English? What we done all before. Now it's free and open and very good. Also, you can choose the level. What Osvaldo mentioned, you can choose the level. Okay, I'm not a native English speaker. Please write in the manner that I'm not a native English speaker. I am at this and this level. So he could write the text in that manner. I do not use. We tried it. We made an experiment from the beginning, from giving the tool to the ChatGPT Pro, just the data, create the AI algorithm, analyze data, collect, create paper when he found the problem with references. He doesn't want to give the references.
Well, thank you for those insights. Appreciate that. You have another question?
Anyone else?
Thank you. It has been really interesting. I would like to ask, not specifically, but I would like to hear your views on, we talk about this AI and all this stuff all the time, but I haven't heard discussions about what are your views on how should we regard what is learning and what are the skills that we need to teach to future students? And sort of, what are the actual skills that they need? Thank you.
The floor is yours, whoever would like to respond.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can venture something, I can try, and then I'll let my colleagues. Well, there's of course how to use the tool itself, but I think beyond that is reflexivity or critical thinking. And I know it's not like a soft skill, but it's to me it should be even before teaching the tool itself. So definitely critical thinking and reflexivity. What do you think, Chibu? Do you have some skills?
Yeah, I show also on Wednesday in my presentation a different set of skills that we can work with AI, and I focus on metacognitions. And I recommend like using AI as a writing assistant, so that the student they can write their pitch or whatever in the entrepreneurial classroom, for example. Then the process is that they submit this paper on AI, but asking not for correction but only for suggestions. So whenever AI generates now the output, they can then have the, as I said a while ago, the freedom to accept or to reject the AI tool, and that's where we can develop our metacognition on writing. So right now, that's how I use it to develop my writing skills in my PhD, for example. So usually that's where you can see that whatever AI generated, Like you can accept it or reject it, and when you reject it, you have now be able to say why I don't accept this idea generated by AI, but I can accept the idea that Virginie, my professor, generated in the classroom. So for me, AI is just as a human. Like it generated something that is automatic because AI have a robotic mind. He can learn very fast, hundreds of millions of books. But my professor just read 2 books or 3 and try to share with us his or her understanding. The same way AI do, but yeah, for me, you can use it mainly to work our metacognition. I don't know.
I think I'll give you a very different position here. I try to hallucinate AI. I try to push it really hard and see where it fails. And I'm very successful in certain aspects because I have really weird. I'll give you a very simple example. I was working on a webinar about COIL, and I tried to collect the emails from every single institution in Brazil. And we have Luciani, we have how many institutions in Brazil? 2,600 institutions, and I was trying to collect not only their emails, but I wanted the email from the directors of the International Relations Office. It simply hallucinated. It was like, all of a sudden it was spinning all the same emails, just changing the last parts. And then I realized that certain tools, for example, I really like Gemini for something that is a little longer. If I want something a little more creative, I use Claude. I don't know if you have, some countries do not have access to DeepSeek, but DeepSeek has been giving me some interesting challenges. And if you want a solid, straightforward, I normally use ChatGPT. So I switch, and I even use, there is a Brazilian tool called Sabiá that was trained in Portuguese. So if I'm right, I'm a Portuguese professor, but it's, sometimes you could make mistakes. So, but I checked with Sabiá to make sure that my Portuguese is okay. If I didn't make any mistakes.
And thank you for that question. I think we have time for maybe one more.
Just one more.
Okay, great, fantastic.
Thank you. So, first of all, sorry for my bad English, and I should say. So, and thank you to my colleague for the question also, because I want to link to her. I don't think it's about teaching new skills to our students when it comes to a new technology like AI, which is not just a technology, it's a paradigm revolution. I think it's about to teach them, or maybe try and engage them more and motivate them to be actually responsible and ethical in their job, which is learning, and to be committed, because when we are speaking about prompting, analyzing, metacognitive skills and so on, this is not about AI, this is about the very human being, the very question of learning. And in this sense, I very much appreciated all of your speech about the language translation. And I was thinking, we are in the middle of a paradox here, maybe, a post-Babel revolution, because for so many years we were forced to learn English. It was nice, I love English, even if I can't speak it so well. But it was such a standardization of languages. which reduce the differences. So it's difficult for me now, in this very moment, to express myself, my feeling, my thoughts in another language. And I think this is a great value of the AI tools, because we can go back to humanity. So the paradox here is that this great technology, yes, there are risks, so many risks, but it's kind of a new possibility to regain our relations, our processes, the process and the products. So I really embrace AI, even if there are many risks with our students, with people and so on, we are very aware of that. But I think that there are more chances to evolve, to learn, and to teach our students how to be really engaged. So it's really a great opportunity to us, not for the technology, but for all of these speeches we are doing about skills, metacognitive skills, innovation, and so on. That's it.
Thank you. That was a wonderful comment. I think you expressed yourself beautifully, by the way. Thank you.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the multiplier session. So a big round of applause again for our moderators, Julia, Australia, Julie, and Robin. Thank you very much. If you would like to join the audience now.
Yes, of course.
And, well,